What is the resume or bracket impact for San Diego State losing last night in Logan, if any?
Yeah, guys, great to be on with you again. I would say the Aztecs standing right now is about as solid as you could ask for, especially coming off a loss, mainly because on Saturday morning here on the West Coast, we were informed by the actual selection committee that's somewhat pleasantly surprising, especially if you are an Aztec. The committee had them 14th overall on the entire seed list. The majority of us in the bracketology community that do this all the time, and we have a show on Field of 68 where we do it every Monday and Friday. We were all in agreement that San Diego State was more in the 5 seed range. So not only was San Diego State's name called on that bracket preview where they only tell you the top 16 teams, but they were 14th overall, so they were still above both Illinois and Wisconsin. So a good 4 or 5 spots higher than I think a lot of us expected. And that's, I think, potentially a really good sign for the rest of the league, just depending on how you want to interpret the information. Again, it's very limited information, getting 16 teams named like that, a quick 30-minute show on CBS. But I think that tells me that San Diego State's wins over St. Mary's and at Gonzaga, which is the main damage done during non-conference, outside of some other good home wins and whatnot. But those were the 2 big ones. From a bracketology perspective, I thought with Gonzaga being a bubble team, St. Mary's being more of a 6-7 level seed, that maybe those wouldn't get as much credit as we know here on the West Coast, as tough as those wins were. But I think this committee is actually perhaps giving them that credit because in the net, St. Mary's is a top 15 team and Gonzaga is a top 22 team. And that's kind of the way, if you go back and dissect all the other teams and who they're being compared against, that's kind of the answer you're left with, at least from where I'm sitting.
So for the Aztecs to lock up a potential 4 seed, what would they need to do the rest of the way? Or is there what do they need to do the rest of the way?
Yeah, well, San Diego State's really just got the Boise State home game left out of the 4 remaining games against a tournament level team. Of course, the other games are at UNLV, at Fresno State. Won't be easy, but of course you'll want to make sure to win those. And then San Jose State at home's, of course, got to be a win. I think it's a very manageable schedule, very easy to see the Aztecs going 4-0 in those 4. And then from there, teams are going to come and go. Last night we saw Creighton beat UConn, make some hay. Perhaps a team like that could pass the Aztecs. There could be a few others behind. We saw Kentucky win at Auburn on Saturday night. That could be a team that could skyrocket. So some of this, if not a lot of this, will be out of the Aztecs' control. I think for the Aztecs to stay where they are, they already know they're in pretty good standing with this group of 12 who are on the selection committee. Is to just go out and win these last 4. I think the loss last night is more than acceptable. It made them 7-7 in games away from home, but they can make up for some of that with, base hits or doubles, if you want to call it that, with wins at UNLV and Fresno to show that they have a winning record away from Viejas. And of course, the Aztecs have been unbeatable in Viejas.
Rocco Miller's with us right now, San Diego Sports 760, bracketologist. You can check out his bracket at bracketeer.org. Can you explain for our listeners what a protected seed truly means? Because teams that are top 4 seed line teams, like San Diego State was in the eyes of the committee on Saturday, are quote unquote protected. What does it mean?
Yeah, the sheer definition of the term is that you cannot play a first round game against a team that is from the region of the arena. I think your school has to be at least 75 miles or further away from the arena. So if San Diego State lands as a 4 seed, they'll play a 13 seed from at least 75, 80 miles or more away. So you won't be playing in the middle of Memphis against a team near Memphis, right? So again, that's kind of the main reason for it. It only protects you in the first round. It's also there's also different rules for the protected seeds in terms of bracketing. So if 4 SEC teams go into the top 16, which I believe we may have had on Saturday off the top of my head here, but that means they all have to go into separate brackets. You can't have 2 SEC teams in the top 4 seeds within like the South region. So there's a lot of different bracketing principles associated with the top 16. Once we start bracketing the 5 seeds and beyond, a lot of those rules start to go away. A 5 seed against a 12 can be at a disadvantage geographically. And you can be at a disadvantage in the second round if you're any seed. So a lot of those rules start to disappear. But the protected seed is meant to protect those teams that are seeded 1 through 4 in every region from having any kind of home court disadvantage in the opening game.
Rocco Miller is with us. So how many teams are we looking at, Rocco? I mean, is it threading a needle for the Mountain West to get 6? Is that still more unlikely than likely? But what's the likeliest number, in your opinion, for the Mountain West?
So I've been forecasting 5 for the last several exercises out of just pure principle. I feel like with 3 pretty heavy bubble teams, whether it's Boise State, Nevada, or New Mexico, I think they all have work to do, if you will, to ensure their place for very different reasons. It feels like the league does have to thread a needle. I know I've had a couple tweets. It's not anything against the league. I love the league. I cover the league just like you guys do. But it's really, it seems really difficult to imagine a non-power league getting 6. However, we all have to remember the selection process has really no rules against how many bids go to a certain league. The voting process, I serve on a mock selection committee every year, actually multiple of them. So I know for a fact that none of that really crosses the mind of the committee members. It just seems like with the games remaining and the amount of teams that are all trying to thread the needle,
yep.
that means all 6 of these, for the most part, San Diego State might be the only lock, right? So the other 5 can't take losses to the bottom of the league. So far, so good. They're doing that. And then New Mexico was a team that really needed a road win. They got that win at Nevada. They're still going to have to go to Utah State, and I believe they have another big one on the road at Boise at the end of the year. They're probably going to need to get at least one of those 2. But there is, I was looking at all the remaining schedule earlier this morning, and I think there is a path to do it, to keep all these resumes strong. You also have to think about how many bids are going to get stolen from auto bids being taken from other leagues, places like the Atlantic 10, the American, et cetera. So there's so much math that goes into this. We can only take the top 36 at-large profiles. But as we sit here today, the other 5 besides San Diego State, I think they all belong right now. So just got to survive a couple more weeks.
All right, Rocco, before you go, this has been a topic of conversation among people that cover the Mountain West. It's actually been discussed for years and years. How many conference games is right for the Mountain West? Right now, it's unbalanced. 18 conference games as opposed to 20. It provides schools like San Diego State with more opportunities in the non-conference. Clearly, the Aztecs have taken advantage of that and been recognized by the committee. Would you advocate, from a bracket perspective, would you advocate for the Mountain West playing 18 games in the league like they've done for each of the last however many years? Or would you advocate for them to go to a balanced schedule and increase it from 18 to 20?
Yeah, I think 18 is working pretty well, especially with the league staying at 11 members. You might want to reconsider it if the league expands, but I think you look at the way this year has played out, I think it's become pretty evident. If you had to spend a couple more games playing, if you had to play Air Force twice, play San Jose State twice, not everybody has to do that. You would effectively be playing a full round robin. You're not helping yourself playing those teams twice. And, you don't know who for sure is going to be good at the start of the year. You do know San Diego State's going to be good at the start of the year. I think we knew New Mexico was going to be pretty strong. We liked Colorado State with Stevens coming back and a lot of other great pieces. So you can manipulate the schedule, which a lot of leagues do. Even the Pac-12 did it this year, to where you are purposely preventing a projected champion like San Diego State from playing the bottom 2 projected teams. Let's say that's, Air Force and maybe it was Wyoming at the time. You're going to make sure they only play each other once. And you can basically manipulate your schedule that way. Several of the leagues do it today, and that allows you 2 extra games to go out and schedule hard. Teams like San Diego State and Boise State took big advantage of that. The reason why Boise State, even though they're only 5-7 in their 12 hardest games, the reason why they're still in the field right now is because they used those opportunities to go to places like Clemson, to get St. Mary's to come and play them in a random arena in the middle of Idaho. They did all these flexible things that you don't have the flexibility to do once they take away those non-conference games from you, because in the Mountain West, athletic directors look at this differently across the board, right? So New Mexico has to play a number of home games. Boise State wants to get out there and play a bunch of strategic games. Nevada, I think, needs a certain amount of home games. San Diego State needs a certain amount of home games. So each AD wants to do something different, but everybody wants the flexibility to get to the tournament.
Well said. Rocco Miller, great insight for Aztec fans, for college basketball fans. Bracketeer.org. We are, 25 days out, but who's counting? I am. San Diegans are.
Of course you are.
Rocco, appreciate you doing it. We're looking forward to the next couple of weeks. Thanks for hopping on in San Diego.
Yeah, anytime, fellas. Good to catch up with you. We'll talk soon.
Great.